Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Padres EVT Podcast in Focus. Our banner is wrong. This is episode 9. I'm just realizing this now. So we are so back, as they say in the sports world. Welcome back. I'm Diego Garcia, your co-host, alongside Willy Warren of Baseballer, formerly one of our Padres staff writers here at East Village Times. Glad to have you on the show again. As always, I think we got to start with the WBC. This no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, it was, something I don't think many fans have ever seen anything like it before. And, it just got better and better and more unique and more special. And it just went on to these levels where it almost made me worry, like, wow, I'm a little worried that the MLB season won't even match this, because it felt like, everybody kind of calls it like the appetizer, like the preview, but I felt like it was a little too much of an appetizer. It was that fun, it was that exciting, and it's always rough to think about that it's only going to happen again in 2030. Obviously, they'll have probably the Olympics in 2028, but still, it was just absolute blast. Just as a pure fan of the game, I don't think you could have not enjoyed that. Like, it was just such an awesome few weeks of high level, intense baseball. It was really, really awesome. Mm-hmm.
There's really, that's a great way to put it. Like, baseball, like, I think that the World Baseball Classic, as it happened, everything that happened is great for the game of baseball. I think that you're putting the game out there on an international stage. Team Italy's Cinderella run to the quarterfinals or the semifinals, I believe, like stuff like that, stories like that, and then Venezuela winning the WBC in what was a really tight game from start to finish. Bryce Harper hits the homer in the 8th, and then Eugenio Suarez with the game-deciding double in the top of the 9th inning. Like, that atmosphere for the final was a great encapsulation of everything that made the WBC an absolute spectacle. And just the way I see it, I think it's great that it happened when it did, because we're pretty much headed for a labor stoppage in MLB after the season. And the WBC has built so much positive capital for the sport in the span of less than 2 weeks. So baseball is still alive, and baseball is only going to continue to grow. We had Team Brazil qualify, Team Nicaragua, which has produced some major league talent. Teams all over the world are going to want this. There are teams in Europe and France and Germany who want to get in on the WBC action for 2030. And as you mentioned, Olympic baseball coming up in 2028. So the game is global. And I think if there was any doubt beforehand, there's no doubts about it now.
Yeah, it's just such a fun, but it's such a basic type of format where it just is like they just you just reach out to a few guys who are from the country. You see if they'd want to play. There's no contracts, there's no money, there's no trades, it's just so simple, but it makes for such united and such to get just teams that are just love each other and they love the game, and they all seem to want it more being around each other. And that was the thing that really stood out to me, was even the teams who didn't win a single game, or they maybe won one, even just the little things, that one double play, or that a couple Ks, and that stuff, it means as much to them as it might mean to like player getting out of a jam in like a high leverage MLB game. Like that's, and it was just so cool because you really couldn't stop watching because everybody was excited about everything. And I mean, it's hard not to be excited too. Like, I mean, I'm definitely someone who like who can just like who can like turn on a game and like root for like both teams, but especially in this, like it was just so fun to see good things happen for both sides and just like feel that you know, pure joy along with them. And that was just why I didn't want to miss a single game. Definitely missed a lot of you know, spring training games because this was just a different level of, you know, the you know, sport that we've all come to love.
Oh, definitely. It was such a competitive atmosphere, and to get that this early in the year, I mean, I'd have no words for it just because of just how good it was. I just can't wait for, you know, Olympic baseball and then, you know, ultimately the next WBC, which is going to be, you know, there's going to be a lot of players who didn't do it this opportunity, especially a lot of younger players who you look 4 years in the future, probably going to be on some of these rosters, which is really just exciting. And speaking of players being on this roster, we're going to go from a more global lens, just zoom in a little bit to Peoria, Arizona, where the San Diego Padres are in the midst of spring training. And it's been an interesting one. It's been an interesting spring training, to say the least, because quite a lot of guys have been away because of the WBC. So other players have had opportunities to really shine. And we're going to, you know, kind of start with a topic we've addressed several times in past episodes. What are the Padres going to do with the starting rotation? Because at this point, there's 3 locks, which are Nick Pivetta, Michael King, and Randy Vasquez. So there's an open competition. It might not be as open anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely not what you kind of hoped for going into the spring, but this is the exact reason why they signed so many depth options, because of a spot like this. And while it's definitely going to come down probably to 3 guys, maybe possibly 4, I'd love to see Matt Waldron get like a shot at some point here, because, you know, his you know, velocity increase was really, it is real. And because after he came back from that injury, and it did stick up, I think near the like 95, 96 even, which is absolutely huge. But outside of him, it's probably just going to be between JP Sears, Herman Marquez, and Walker Buehler, which are, you know, two of those are, you know, new to the team this off season. And I do think, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see who they go with, because both Marquez and Buehler they've been pitching well as of late. And so it's definitely going to be a tough choice to see who gets the 4, who gets the 5, and then who gets left out. But I do think that that Walker Buehler and Herman Marquez are the 2, like, probably the 2 front runners for the 4 and 5 spots.
I think I agree with you about Matt Waldron. I think they want him to stretch out to be a starter. They're going to take their time with him. He's probably going to start the year on the IL. And when it comes to Matt Waldron, he's got, you know, the uptick in velo, 94, 95, occasionally hitting 96. So he would be interesting if we can even see that summer of 2024 version of Matt Waldron that had like a 3 ERA and was the Padres' most consistent starting pitcher for about half a season. It's just a matter of him getting built up to be a starter. He's also going to be out of minor league options. So if one of Bueller or Marquez struggle for about a month, we might see. I think that might be the best avenue for a Matt Waldron return to the majors. Another thing I wanted to point out, because you brought up Walker Bueller and Marquez. Bueller's made 3 starts, and he had a backfield outing against the NC Dinos of the KBO. But in those 3 starts, he's thrown 11 2/3, struck out 13 batters, has an ERA under 3, and a WHIP of 1.2, which, sure, it's a small sample, but you take that for your number 3 starter compared to German Marquez, who his ERA is around 9 so far. He has a 9.26 ERA in the same amount of innings. So with Marquez, if you have him as the 5 and you have Bueller as the 4, the Padres schedule is set up in a way where you don't need a 5 for like the entire first month because of the amount of off days. Do you think we could kind of see Marquez do some long relief if he makes the opening day roster?
That would be really interesting, and definitely not something that I don't think that like anybody would really see coming. But I do think that would be a good way to build him back up a little bit, and give him time to adjust to a new park, new defense behind him, new everything, and it would just be a little bit of like a softer landing for him than if he were slotted into say the 4th, 5th, 6th game of the year, where like that's not easy, and especially with given how he's pitched in spring so far, it's definitely, you don't want to just roll him out there and just hope that he starts to click when it counts, because that's just not a method for like success right there. But I do think that would be a good way, just at least for him, like to get him accommodated a little bit to pitching in his new uniform. So yeah, I would definitely consider that if I was Craig Stammen.
It's interesting that, speaking of Craig Stammen, he mentioned that they were kind of looking at all possibilities. They might get a little creative when it comes to filling out that 5th starter's role, which to a lot of people sounded like, they might do an opener and then have someone like a Kyle Hart or even Marquez come in as a sort of long relief arm. And Kyle Hart has been really good this spring. He hasn't allowed an earned run. Also in 11 2/3 innings. It feels like everyone's throwing 11 2/3 innings these days. But Hart hasn't allowed a run, and I'm trying to remember how many guys he struck out. It's up there. He struck out 6 guys in an outing. And one of the things behind it that's been really interesting is the way he's using his pitches. He's going more to the sinker and more to what Savant is calling they're calling it a splitter. It's weird because it's like a weird like split, like kick change splitter. It lives in that weird middle ground because he was experimenting with a kick change last year, and when he came back, like it was pretty good. But like I call it a kick change because that's what I've seen when he throws the ball. Savant's calling it a splitter, but the usage is way up. It's about 25% in spring. I don't know if you have, Kyle Hart's like stuff graphs or if you've seen it. What can you tell us about how he's done this spring?
Well, it definitely got a lot better when he went to the pen. He started throwing harder. His, his sweeper started getting more, break to the glove side. But now that he's added 2 new pitches and he's using them, that's a little bit of a shock to me. But I'd say a good sort of shock,
like
because,
a welcome surprise sort of
thing.
A
welcome surprise, because if he was finding like late season like late season success with those with those like two old pitches, then the fact that he's added two and is using them a lot, it tells me that there's something that there's something that he has found in those, whether it's like better location, maybe it's doing better job of tunneling. Like that could definitely be the case with that split kick change thing that he's throwing, but it's definitely up from when he was a starter. And we did say it when we were talking before the show here, was that he looks like a starter from the outside, but he's really a bullpen pitcher by heart, and no pun intended there as well. but yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of been fun yet not exactly what we would have thought to see his stuff kind of tick up when he went to the pen last season, and then also in this spring.
Yeah, it's been a welcome revelation to have, because last year there were moments where like, do we really have to carry this guy on the roster? And now it's like you kind of want him now on your roster because just the way that his stuff is played up. Like we knew when he signed last year that the sweeper was good. Like it's always been like his bread and butter pitch, but now seeing he's rounding out the arsenal to be able to get righties as well, because that was a big thing for him last year. Righties were crushing him because they could, sit back and wait on the sweeper. But now he's kind of got that equalizer to be more of a platoon neutral guy instead of just a guy who faces just lefties.
Yeah, and it will definitely be a huge too now that Yuki Matsui is not gonna likely start start the year with the team as he recovers from I believe it was the hamstring injury. It was some sort of leg.
It's an adductor injury, if I recall.
Adductor.
It was a lower body thing. It was definitely
lower
a lower body
thing. But yes, and so now that kind of low leverage left-hander is not going to be with the on the opening day roster, it's definitely going to be huge to have Hart actually like now it's not even like they want to carry him on the team. It's like now they kind of have to, and there's not many other like left hand options who could just like they could use when they're down guys and they need a couple big outs in the like sixth inning or and I do think that he'll be a big piece because that pen definitely lacks it lacks any left-handers after Wandy Peralta and of course Adrian Morejon, who will probably be more reserved for the eighth inning, more like platoon neutral sort of situations there. So it's definitely going to be huge for him to make obviously the most that he can out of this kind of revamped pitch mix here, because I mean he'll be called upon quite a bit probably to get those big outs against like against left-handers, but also he is also becoming more platoon neutral as well. So yeah,
it'll be great to watch. And you mentioned Adrian Morejon, who apparently now throws 101, which is who would have, if you had told me this when he came up in 2019, I would have been like, who'd have thunk it? Like, way, because when he was a young 19, 20-year-old kid making his debut, like, he was just throwing 95, 96, 97, but there was always the injury history. And now he's hitting 100 to 101 consistently. I believe his last outing, he threw 8 pitches that were above 101 miles an hour, which is more than he threw in his entire career up to that point. So I would not want to be an opposing team facing the Padres in the 7th to the 9th inning, which, is a sentence we've kind of been saying for years now with the way they build up this bullpen.
Yeah, I have one question for you about him is how many teams do you think he would be their closer for? Just off like top of your head, no, cheat sheets or anything. Just
I would say about 20, quite frankly.
yeah.
I think because when it comes to, overall closers in Major League Baseball, even just thinking in the NL West, Arizona would definitely love him as a closer. Colorado, yes. The Giants, definitely. I mean, the Dodgers have Edwin Diaz, but at this point, who would you? That's a tough. Like this could be a really interesting. Like, would a team rather have Edwin Diaz or a guy like Adrian Morejon? Because left-handers who throw absolute gas and can locate it too is hard to find, especially out of the bullpen. That, for example, the Dodgers brought in Tanner Scott last year and they showed him how to find the zone at the expense of the whiffs. So, like, even in the NL West, I think Adrian Morejon would be a closer on 3 teams in the National League. He'd be a closer. Because I'm trying to think of who's in the NL East, because I know the Mets have Devin Williams. Would you rather have Adrian Morejon or Devin Williams?
I just based off Devin Williams 2025, I would go with Adrian Morejon because I think he was maybe at least a full point of ERA above him. So I would take him over Devin Williams,
I think the only team in the NL East who would not take Morejon as their closer is the Phillies because they have Yohan Duran.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
And then in the Central, let's see, the Cubs. Who's the closer for the Cubs?
Palencia.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you take Morejon over Palencia, but the rest of the division, the rest of the Central, just thinking off the top of my head, you take him over Emilio Pagan. We don't talk about Emilio Pagan in this household. Thank you very much. Good grief! Why does he learn how to throw that cutter hard when he leaves, but it's just spinning up there when he's here? And then the Reds, the Brewers have Trevor McGill. Do you take Morejon over Trevor McGill or Abner Uribe?
Probably I'd take him over Trevor McGill because I think he locates it better, but I think that Abner Uribe is going to be an absolute stud, and he kind of is he's kind of similar in like the the mix and the kind of just like the way he goes about attacking hitters is like they're very comparable in that sense. So I would take him over one, but not the other there.
Yeah, and then the Pirates and the Cardinals definitely would love him as their closer. And that's just in the NL. I think 11 teams alone in the NL would definitely take Adrian Morejon as their closer at this point. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to get paid. There is no doubt that he's going to get paid this upcoming offseason if the lockout doesn't absolutely shatter the earning potential for a player that he is. And he's one of the setup arms in this bullpen. Like, there are teams who I think would be happy with like David Morgan or Garrett Hawkins as their closer right now. And Bradley Rodriguez, there are teams who would love Bradley as their closer right now. But this is one of the, I know when we had Sam on, Sam Dykstra, he was telling us how the Padres just make bullpen guys out of nowhere. And it's very true, and we're seeing it. And even then, they go out and get Mason Miller, who's arguably the best closer in the game. I mean, this bullpen I'm gonna stop myself from saying it could be generational because I did that a couple of years ago, and that was the year that the bullpen imploded. That was 2021. So I'm gonna stop myself before giving any bad karma. But the way this roster has been built, at least on the bullpen side of things, is you have guys and you have guys in case the guys get injured.
Yeah, it's just like there's just so much, like pick and choose because there's everything. I mean, they really have every type of guy, every type of pitcher. Like, I mean, you could be seeing like 101 from the left-handed Adrian Morejon, and then in the next inning, say it's one of those days, and in the dog days of summer when you're seeing Alec Jacob come in next and throwing underhand 20 something inch breaking pitches, like maybe half the speed, almost not actually, but that's what it probably feels like. And it's just it is awesome that like there's really no worry there, and there's no like like we really need this group to stay on the field because like we don't have any options. Like obviously you want everybody to stay healthy because that's absolutely huge for for like not just the present but also the future. But it does really help know just to know that like you can always have someone someone in the like waiting in the wings who can like, I mean, as you kind of put it there, was like as other teams would want them for more important roles than the Padres would use them for. And I guess that's just like a kind of, that's a nice feeling to have, knowing that, guys are kind of out performing like their roles, and it's just absolutely huge. And it does feel great to have it like that. And I do hope that they continue to build on this kind of new identity, because it's kind of becoming who they are as a team. And I think it's working pretty well. And I think it's kind of like an odd way to approach like roster construction, but I think it's beneficial in the long run, because then it comes up huge in September, October. And I do think that's likely, I mean, it is probably their biggest strength that they have there. But it's likely the reason that they'll make it wherever they go in 2026.
Most definitely. And we went through all the guys that they have not even mentioning. Guys like Ron Marinaccio and Alec Jacob are literally on the roster bubble because they were out at the WBC instead of in spring training, which is like, I think Alec Jacob is out of options this year, I believe. I might be mistaken on that. But Ron Marinaccio is definitely out of options. So, he might, if he doesn't make the roster, he very well could get traded. There are guys who you will get something for. Like last year, they got a flamethrowing reliever for Connor Joe. For 6 ABs worth of Connor Joe, they were able to get Andrew Moore, who is slated to start the year in AAA. So when they go out and get guys with, some of the players that are on the roster that are kind of excess goods for, the way that the roster is built, they get value back, which I think bodes well for them in the present and future. And speaking of future, I think that's a great way to. I need to think of a better way to segue in between segments. I hope our listeners are probably like, here it goes again. Here's another transition. I need to work on my transition, but we'll get to that. I don't get paid for transition. Oh boy, we're having fun. So spring breakout is coming up. This episode is going up on the 20th. If you're listening to this on the 21st before 6 p.m., you're listening before the game. Very good. So the spring breakout game is this upcoming Saturday, March 21st. And the Padres prospects are taking on the Cubs prospects at Sloan Park in Arizona. The roster has officially been released, and we did pretty good projecting the roster in our spring breakout draft a couple of weeks ago. We got all the outfielders. We went 4 for 4 on outfielders. So I'm going to pull up the roster right here for us to have it. Here we go. So here is the roster so far. This is pitchers. Well, we can start with pitchers. Let's start with the pitchers. I'm adding there we go. So pitchers, we've got Jackson Delana, Clay Edmondson, Harry Gustin, Luis Gutierrez, who we mentioned a couple weeks ago, Garrett Hawkins, Cannon Kemp, Josh Mallett, who went to the WBC, Cash Mayfield, Miguel Mendez, Johan Moreno, Kleber Olmedo, Cruz Schoolcraft, and Len Hong Soo. Notable omissions, Tucker Musgrove. I think we all wanted to see him in the spring breakout game, but he is not going to be there. Just cursory thoughts on the pitching staff for this team.
I mean, it definitely looks. It's like you're getting a taste of of guys who have we've seen pitching in the minors and stuff, and like we know more about them, but you're also getting kind of like first looks at guys like Lon Hong Soo and like Jackson Delana and like guys who we haven't seen as much of, and obviously it's only probably like one inning per guy, maybe even like two outs or 3 batters, however it kind of goes down, but it's definitely fun to see them all gear up in brown and gold and kind of get to see, because I mean they're not they're all working on different things, different they're all in different stages of their development, but it's kind of fun just to gauge like, okay, this is what he throws, and I do think it's going to be really, really fun to see Lon Hong Soo's pitch mix, because we haven't seen it at all, and per the the like scouting on him is that he throws a bunch of different pitches, and that's personally what I'm most excited about, just because I haven't we haven't seen that yet, and it'll obviously be fun to watch Cruz and Miguel Mendez and Cannon Kemp is another one I'm excited to see pitch again, but yeah, I'd be curious to hear who you're most excited about to.
I mean, there's so many guys to get excited about. Like even some of these unranked guys have some interesting stuff. Harry Gustin had one of the best seasons for the Padres last year in the minor leagues in relief. Doesn't throw overly hard, but he's got a wicked slider and a developing sweeper. Josh Mallett throws 4 different kinds of pitches, and we saw him at the WBC with Team Israel. I hope. This is just me being an absolute baseball sicko, but I hope that we get a transition from Cruz Schoolcraft to Clay Edmondson. That is going to be absolutely nasty, because we've seen how Cruz throws. That Clay Edmondson is sidearm submarine delivery. I can't think of a comp for him other than like Eric Yardley from the 2019 Padres, if we go that far back in time. So another low release point. They had him throw a couple innings at AAA last year. I would say the 2 guys I'm really excited to see are probably Cannon Kemp and Jackson Delana. I know with Kemp, they took him to the Arizona Fall League. They had him pitch in relief, and he was blowing 100 past guys. So that was a welcome development. There were days where he didn't have his best stuff, and he was sitting 92 to 94. starting, but then out of the bullpen, he's throwing 100. I still think they want him as a starter long term, and I think he's going to get every opportunity to be a starter to open the year at single A unless they go aggressive. And then with Delana, he's got 4 or 5 different pitches I want to see the metrics on, because he's part of this new wave of Padres prospects. That something I love that they're doing a lot more of now is they're going after the guys with the high riding fastballs. They were kind of one of the later teams to get in on the IVB party, but now they're really going after these kinds of guys, and Delano's just the next one in what is probably going to be an impressive line of guys who throw fairly hard, get plenty of lift on the fastball, and I think he's another guy who could be a starter long term. I mean, we could go on about all these pitchers, but I think we touched on most of them a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we can look at the sort of position player side of things, where if we look at all the catchers, we went 3 for 4 in predicting catchers. The one guy we missed was Brendan Durfee, who is 1 for 2 so far this spring with a home run, I think, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a fun group there. I'm not sure exactly what they're gonna do with like who gets more playing time, because everybody obviously wants to see Ethan Salas, but Mr. AJ Preller, who's likely going to be sitting a couple rows behind home plate, would probably also like to see Ty Harvey and Truett Madonna. So I'm curious if they'll maybe let one, that they'll catch like three innings each, or 2 innings each, and let Brendan Durfee get a couple innings. I mean, it's just kind of going to be fun, because there's so many guys there that you want to see, but that's obvious. It's not like the infield or the outfield where you can just kind of throw them around and kind of change things up. So I'm kind of curious whether they'll DH one of them, but regardless, I hope I get to see at bats from all of them, because I mean they're all really, really exciting, and they all kind of bring different skill sets, and especially Ty Harvey, because I mean we've seen just so little out of him, but he's such a physical athletic prospect, and I'd love to see him. I do think I remember reading that he's kind of fast for a backstop, and I'd love to see him get on, try to steal bait. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. And so I do think this is probably the most fun position group there is, but obviously it's going to be kind of tough to sort the playing time there.
Most definitely. I think with Harvey or Madonna, one of them is definitely going to DH. I think it'll probably be Madonna, just because they've shown a willingness to have him play different positions a little bit more just early on in the spring. And then the infield crop, I think, is really interesting too, because you have Romeo Sanabria, who's going to start at first base. Ryan Jackson is probably going to start at second. So you got franchise shortstop Jorge Quintana out at a short, and then you probably have Kel Fountain playing third just to start the game. And that they've got a good blend of power and speed there, it's really interesting, because they have the tools to be really projectable players in the short term and the long term. I really want to highlight the other guys who, aren't, we haven't talked about, which are Dylan Grego and Jose Verdugo. Jose Verdugo, I think he is not related to Rosamond Verdugo, at least to my recollection, because I know his brother, Luis Verdugo, is also in the organization. So this Verdugo is not related to that Verdugo, who is related to the other Verdugo. Try saying that 5 times fast. But Grego, they just drafted him last year, I think, out of NC State, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if it was NC State, but I'm double checking as I'm saying this. But he had one of the most slick fielding gloves in the entire system last year. They drafted him out of Ball State. My apologies, Ball State. But he's got a good glove. They got some good fielding guys. And then Jose Verdugo was one of their most productive hitters in the in the Dominican Summer League who makes the jump over. Interestingly, David Coronil and Joan de la Cruz did not make the roster, although they are both coming stateside.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bit of a shock because they're two guys there that you would probably love to see them face like non-Dominican Summer League pitching and yeah, I would have absolutely loved to see them playing alongside each other at third and shortstop, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's not much we probably get to hear on why, but it could also just be a thing of like they're like maybe they're just working on things, they're working there's something more important than them, like for them to be doing than that, but either way, it's still going to be a really, really fun group. I mean, you've got power stacked on power at the corners, and then you've got some really, really fun middle infielders who can all hit, for contact. They're all pretty good fielders, and I do think it's going to be fun to watch. Like hopefully they can, turn a couple double plays, make some plays out there. Cause that definitely is kind of one of the more, head turning things. Cause we don't really get a lot of defensive updates, like from, the minor league side of things. And so getting to actually see, everybody out on one field on one field is kind of it will be kind of nice to gauge how just how good of a defender they all are. So that'll be really, really fun.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And also, 4 of the 6 infielders are shortstops. So when they tell you, will AJ Preller continuously stack the farm with shortstops, the answer will forever be yes, because that's just how he does things. And we get to the outfield group, which, I mean, we got all 4 names right in Carpathios, Kavares Tiers, Case and Wells, and Ryan Weidman. So your prediction of them having Case and Wells run, steal a base or two will most likely be true.
Yeah, I mean that'll be super, super fun. I mean that is a group that has obviously tons of power, but then also also bringing in Case and Wells there will be fun to watch him roam around the outfield and yeah, I mean I do like this is maybe statistically the best hitting group that there is. I think in terms of just like maybe OPS or something more basic like that, but yeah, it'll be fun to watch Ryan Weidman, because I mean I don't think we've seen much of him either. He's just drafted recently. We just kind of hear stuff like lots of power, lots of swing and miss, and we don't we don't get to see what that actually looks like yet. And so that'll be really, really, really fun to kind of get to see what this is all about. And it's kind of funny because like I wish that this was like a 3-game set, and and like we got to see every pitcher for maybe 2 innings, 3 innings, something like that. And we got to see like 10 at-bats from, every major player, maybe like 5 from the not as, highly touted players, just so you could get a better idea of it. Because I mean, there's so much there's like so many new faces that we'd like love to see more of, that it's kind of a bummer that you just see him for one single game, and then they're back to minor league camp, and then back to the not so well covered minor league side of things. So
yeah, and that's exactly why we're here, to provide coverage of the
yes.
Padres minor leagues. That is the least shameless plug in history. I do not apologize. But you mentioned how we haven't seen Ryan Wyden do a ton. He only played in 26 games, when he got up to single A. I think he's definitely going to start the year there. So he'll be up in Lake Elsinore for sure. And this is just a fun roster when you put it all together, in terms of the pitching staff, in terms of the hitters they've selected. They got a good blend of guys with power and guys with speed. And then the pitching staff, I mean, you got guys who do it from every angle, who from 91 to 100 even. So this is it's gonna be a fun game. I have no doubts that we're in for a good one this weekend. And I know the Padres have regular game action, but if I'm tuned into one game this weekend, it's definitely gonna be that one.
Yeah, it's like it's just kind of one kind of cool of event there that we only get to see. So we won't get to see it anything really like it all season. So definitely I will also try to tune into that, because I mean it's fun. And I mean I do remember going in 2025, and it was just like it was just awesome to, you like, because you could just get excited about anybody who does any little thing. Like you just wanted to write it down, and think, okay, he can do this well, he can do this well, he did this, he did it. Like it's definitely, if you're gonna really lock into any game, it's definitely a fun game to try to not miss a single pitch of, at least.
Definitely. And I know that there's going to be live data coming live to us from Sloan Park. So, we'll have our hands full with that for sure. There was one guy in spring training I wanted to get your poke your brains about. Someone by the name of Jase Bowen, who has been playing incredibly well. And there's an interview with him this past week where they asked him, he was approaching minor league free agency, and instead of re-signing, with the Pirates, he decides to sign with the Padres. And they asked him, why did you choose to make the jump? He said something along the lines of, I wanted to join a winning organization. And to hear this after years and years of perennial disappointment, that was the first half of the 21st century for the Padres, at least the first 15, 20 years. And now, over the last 5 or 6 years, just the organization, the way it's been able to build this reputation of competition in a division that's never been easy. When you have guys who are signing with the Padres for reasons like that, that's gotta, to quote Jonathan Gannon, that's gotta light a fire in your gut somewhere.
Yeah, I mean it's been fun watching Jase this spring. I mean, he's been tearing the cover off of the ball so far, and but that news, I would say, definitely outweighs his awesome performance so far, because I mean that's just that just makes you feel good as a fan, knowing that because us as fans of a team there, it's we can only gauge our own confidence in the team because of other fans and stuff, and how the team is actually playing. But seeing that from a player, someone who is who's in there every day, who is working at it, and it's not just just like oh well if I come here and like and and just I get to just be a part of this team. I get to go play in San Diego. It's like no, it's like he like wanting to go to war every day with like a team that you think is competitive. That's awesome. And as just like a fan, that's absolutely huge. And it's definitely been awesome to to just like to see how he's been playing. But yeah, that's just like a really, really, really good feeling to to have 6 days before opening night, 7 days
Yeah.
before opening day.
Yeah, we're recording on the 19th. We're a week before, but you're probably listening to this on the 20th, so that's 6 days before. But this season is poised to be, a big one. Like the division got tougher for the Padres in some areas. Some areas are very much in a that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off for him. I'm looking right at the Giants when I say that. So it's an interesting spot for the Padres to be in right now because there are huge questions about their rotation, but pretty much every other team has a huge question mark in this division. With the Giants is how will their lineup kind of mesh together? Arizona's question is what does their bullpen look like? Because they brought back like their biggest bullpen addition, at least to the top off the top of my head, was bringing back Paul Sewald's time to pitch. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And then, the Dodgers are all worried about Roki Sasaki while half of the league is hate watching for some reason, enthusiastically. But I know last year the Padres had a chance to win the NL West if they didn't go cold in the middle of August. Do you think there is a realistic chance that there's an opportunity like that in 2026?
I think only because they had a shot. I say there is a chance. Do I think so? No. I want to think so, obviously. But I do think that, it always seems to just like somehow, some way, it always seems to come down to like a few games at the very, very end where it seems like, oh, well, if they sweep them and we sweep them, like they could, win the NL West. And so I do think there's a chance at it. Obviously, we've seen the Dodgers in recent years maybe not play as well as they want to in the regular season, and maybe that's becoming who they are, and we would really love that as as the from the Padres perspective there. But I do think if that happens again, where they win under 100 games, I think there's a shot, because it's pretty much the same team that you just kind of rolled out there last season, just with some injuries and a couple new faces that are going to try to live up to some of the guys who left, like Ryan O'Hearn and Luis Arise, and so that I would never rule it out, because it's always it's the NL West, and it just always seems to play out like that. And I can already see that MLB graphic where it has both of them, and it's like, who's gonna win the NL West with six games to go. I can already see it. It always seems to just happen that way.
It's kind of habitual almost. There's a graphic like that in the middle of August or late July or something, and I think where the Padres are right now, roster wise, they're in a good spot to, if other teams kind of scuffle out the gate, they're in a spot to build momentum while the rest of the team gets healthy. You're gonna get a full season out of Ramon Laureano, who looked incredible when he came over. You're getting Gavin Sheets at first base, taking over Ryan Hart, and Gavin Sheets has shown steady improvement in his play discipline this spring. Like when he's hit home runs, they've gone far, and that's putting it lightly. This spring, you're getting a more on base, some more power. Jake Cronenworth in an opposite field home run. So, that was the first time he had done that.
Wait, he did?
He did.
Wait, that's crazy.
He hit an opposite field.
That's the first, really? Wow.
Yeah, he's
Because
never
I know
done it at
he's
the
never
major
done
league
that.
level, but he hit one in spring training, and there were all the doubts about kind of what's the hitting gonna look like with bringing a new hitting coach in Steven Souza, but so far it looks pretty good. I think what they're doing, and when I think the biggest thing is Jake Cronenworth hit an opposite field home run, so you feel great about that. And this team is in a great position. They have depth. Miguel Andujar has 2 homers on the spring. He's doing pretty well. Nick Castellanos has 2 homers on the spring. He got Andres Munoz the other day.
Yeah.
So that was like, they're hungry. This is a hungry team going into the season, and that's exactly what you want. Are they going to lose a little bit in like batting average? Probably, because they don't have Luis Arias, who's going to kind of skew that one way. But at the same time, you get better defensively all over the infield, and with Fermin kind of being the rock to hold down the fourth catching wise. I do want to ask a question about the catching situation, because this is something I've been wrestling with all week. Luis Campusano has not been good in spring training, but has been all but assured the number 2 spot. Meanwhile, Rodolfo Duran has been hitting for power, even though he hasn't hit for world-breaking average. Do you think they give Campy a full season as the backup, or do you think they're going to cut bait at some point?
I think it's so tough because you just see this like where he's not playing very, very well, but then he's also assured that spot there basically only because of how well he played in El Paso last season. And so like it's really, really tough, because it's like every time he seems to be given a chance, he doesn't really do much with it. But then again, he has that huge list of homer after homer after homer with the like 300 something 300 something average, and then the OPS over one over 1,000, and it's like, I mean, they'll likely just I feel like they'll just run with they're just going to try to give him a longer sample size than they gave him last season, because clearly that just kind of messed with him a little bit, only getting those like 28 at bats or so. And I'm not saying that will lead to better production, but I think he'll at least get like 2 months, maybe 3 of like before they would ever say like, okay, maybe let's look elsewhere for it. Just because of like what his 2025 season, I mean, that just gives him a ton of leeway just simply because of how well he played there.
Yeah, it's really interesting what a good season at AAA will do for a guy, because Rodolfo Duran is kind of in the same boat. Like his second half, he had over 300 with I think 12 home runs. There was one month where he hit 8 homers. I think that was in August. He went absolutely nuclear down in El Paso. So at this point, Duran has to be the third catcher on the depth chart. I think he would be the guy if Campusano gets injured or Fermin gets injured. He's the next guy up, and then Blake Hunt, who returning to the organization, he's probably right behind him. He's just been dealing with I believe it was an oblique strain, at least to what I recall off the top of my head. But the roster still has a few questions that are likely to be answered within the next 4 to 5 days as they approach opening day. But before we go, because we've gone through a lot of topics today, and I'm sure that I'm working on putting chapters in these. So if you're watching and you want to go to a specific topic, how YouTube will allow you to do that, I'm working on that with our past episodes. Our next episode is going to be a viewer mailbag episode where you send us questions, comments, concerns about, expectations or player performances, prospect stuff. And, we will do our best to answer as many of them as possible. If it's a repeat question, we won't answer the same question 4 times. We won't say, is this player getting launched to the sun? We're not going to answer stuff like that for the sake of the game. But that's kind of our goal for our next episode. We're looking forward to answering your questions, because we've answered a lot of our own questions and a lot of external things, but now we get to hear from you, the listeners, and go from there. So we're looking forward to that. For more from each of us, there are our respective links are in the description. If you want to read Willy's work for Baseballer, you can find that in the description below as well. I think at this point, the link should be clickable because we've been doing this for 2 months. But with that being said, thank you all so much for joining us for the 9th episode of In Focus, show, a production of the Padres EVT Network. On behalf of my co-host, Willy Warren, this is your co-host, Diego Garcia, saying thank you all so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again very soon.